Islam, 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 and welcome, welcome, welcome to Sisters Standing on Law. This is your host, Annie Ina, along with my co-host, RVBey.
Islam, peace, and love to all.
Islam, Islam. Well, just want to let everybody know the chat room is open, and once again, I have to say welcome to Sisters Standing on Law. It is so many things happening that it's like, where do you even begin? But as you know, this is Sisters Standing on Law. It is a program or broadcast geared towards the sisters. It doesn't exclude the sons. However, it is geared towards the sisters because we desperately need the sisters to wake up. We desperately need the sisters to wake up because the whole lesson to what's going on from the very beginning to this day is right on the front of the 101. When she wakes up, it's over. It's done. We desperately need the sisters to wake up. I mean, I can't say it. I can't find the words to express the great magnitude that is needed for the sisters to wake up. I can't find the words to express how great the desire and the need for the sisters to wake up is. I can't find the words. Well, we try to express it through these various different broadcasts on the MHHS Eyes Wide Open platform. Just how desperately we need for the sisters to wake up. I can't say it enough. Roger, you want to say something?
Somewhere, right? Where does it start? I said, where does it start? Where does it start for them to effectuate that? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Because it starts with the birth of the child, because this is about birthright. So it starts there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From the door. Because without a birth certificate, the same which we'll talk about, the same intent of the corporations who are trying to gain judicial or jurisdiction and authority over you and your children, they're still going to be who they are. They're still going to be who they are. But if you don't get to the core of where to start cutting it off, then then it cannot be effectuated. You know what I'm saying? And
right.
The core of and the family, right?
Yes.
It's family. And so there's a maxim of law that says that family, as society originates with family, so does the authority or government. So that means that that's kind of like where it starts when you have the child. This is creating, family as we move forward, right? And this is, and then it also has another one we don't speak much about. It says as soon as any part of a person's conduct affects prejudicially the interest of others, then society has jurisdiction over it. Because that's why we're telling people the government is the people, not these entities that erect processes and procedures and protocols and work out of some building somewhere saying they're a government building or whatever like that. That's not where it's at. Again, as soon as any part of a person's conduct, that means anyone outside, anyone that you know, anyone at all, affects in a prejudicial manner the interest of you and your children, then you have jurisdiction over, well, you always had jurisdiction over it anyway. So, these are the things that we must effectuate And the reason why women have to wake up is because this is about birthright, and who gives birth but you. So when you go to that comfortable artifice that they have used to keep you in a certain legal/lawful position, yes, you can definitely say it starts when you have birth and when you agree to, or when you don't have consciousness of what that birth certificate is. In other words, they can sit back, have a couple drinks, put their feet up because you've agreed from the door to be under their jurisdiction by operating from that birth certificate and what it means, or what you think it means. But once you know what it is not, then you refuse that because it's an offer that you can refuse. You see? So then that knocks that out of the way. So now that's gone. That's gone, right? We still have to get rid of the mental slavery that we have, the mental condition that we have, thinking that there's some authority there. But if we're able to successfully, if I could use that word, knock the certificate, which means a certificate is implying an exchange of some kind, which of course would be your child exchanging for something. That's what it's implying. If we could get that out of the way, if we're able to get that out of the way, then we just got through. We just knocked down a whole lot of stuff. I mean, would you agree?
Yes. And because this, the prophet said, I can't say it enough. The prophet is just amazing, just a mastermind. He is absolutely brilliant and amazing. And he said, if I can just get you thinking, you would free yourself. I like to ad-lib and stick in there. You'd mess around and accidentally, free yourself. Because if we would just stop to think, really thinking is absolutely the key. Because I don't care where you are in your journey back to self. You're going to run into a lot of people along the way. And if you do not have the discipline to stop and take the necessary time to think, you're going to get caught up in some unnecessary drama. And at this time and place and space and energy, that can mean your life, at least this incarnation. That could mean your life, because this is getting very, very serious. And I'm not going to accuse people of taking this lightly or treating this as though it is a joke, but this is so serious that, you can't come into this, with your ego on the front burner. You can't come into this looking to get something. You can't come into this and you have not submitted, let's say, the will of Allah or the universe, and just allow the energy to take all of that misinformation that is inside of you and fill you with correct information. Let me just say, you can't get no new energy, okay, until you get rid of the crappy energy you got inside of you working against you right now. And a lot of people, they come into this with their crappy energy. And when I say crappy energy, that means not just energy, but information. And you want to hold on to it. You want to hold on to it. You don't want to let it go. And some people get, a little attitude because you don't want to let go of that misinformation. But as long as you hang on to that misinformation and that bad energy, you're never going to be free. And it is that negative information that creates bad energy that attracts to you the very negative experiences that you don't want. And, you know, at the beginning and the end of the day, we have got to recognize that, look, when we look at who is falling humanity, you've got to recognize it's her. You've got to recognize it's her. Who, I'm not saying don't wake up the sons, but I'm like, we need to be on an all-out campaign to wake up Mother, because she is the one that is contracted to bring in the new energy. And if she is not awake, these modern Europeans is going to be waiting right outside of her room to snatch that baby and never give it back. And snatching the baby doesn't have to mean they're physically taking the baby, because if they've got the mother's mind, they got the baby's mind. So we've got to go on an all-out campaign to wake Mother up, because trust and believe, Mother is going to make sure all her children is safe, no matter how raunchy they may want to be. We've got to recognize that. We've got to line up with the energies of the universe, and we have got to put all of that ego and negative energy, we've got to put it down, because if we don't, the train will move on without you. And you will just have to circle back and be reincarnated and go through all of the things that you've gone through, and then some, to get back to the place that you left off, to continue on your journey. And isn't it amazing that that's exactly what they showed you in the, I think it was the second Matrix, where he goes into that room and he sees himself going through the same things, only getting a little further with every reincarnation. Who wants to go through that? Who wants to do that over again? I mean, just reflect on some of the experiences, unpleasant though they may be, that you have had in this incarnation, and ask yourself, do you really want to go through those things again? I mean, if there was a way that you could avoid them, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? And then the last thing I want to say before I turn it back over is, we've got to know, I mean, I had an epiphany. I had an epiphany, and it was so great, I had to jot it down. I was having a conversation and had a revelation. The prophet, let me make sure I'm quote, because I've been having quite a few epiphanies lately. The prophet said, I'm going to leave the Europeans in place long enough to teach / show you how to run government. Government is family. Yep. Government is family. Family is government. They are synonymous. So if you get that into your cranium and you reread that, he's saying, I'm going to leave the Europeans in place long enough to teach you how to run and treat family.
Yeah.
Because it's all about family. It's all about family. Government is family. Family is government. So if we get that into our head and we start and we take a fresh look at what is going on, you got these foreign Europeans trying to get you. They use the word expatriate. Expatriate means they're trying to get you to voluntarily adopt or agree to be adopted. And they say that in, I think it's Title 8 of one of their codes. If they find you lost, they will adopt you. It's right in their codes. When they say things like lost, that doesn't mean physically lost, wandering around, don't know where to go. It means you've lost your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and
we got to know what family and government means, because as long as we don't, like Russ always says, and like the sister pointed out in Pharaoh's Army, you'll miss it. Islam.
Yeah, Islam on that. And so to enforce again what you just said, this is why it is stated in natural law, nature's law, common law, which is what the law of this land is based on, to protect you from being molested by corporations and by other persons who may act, who may do something and conduct themselves where it affects you prejudicially, meaning they already made a prejudgment on you and they don't even have authority to judge. That's why it says prejudicial. So to enforce that again, I will say again, it says that the condition of the mother determines the condition of the child, and that is a fact. That is a fact. And today we're going to go through some things on how they're affecting both the sons and the daughters or the mothers.
The mothers.
But the only thing that they can do is pit family against each other, and that's what they do very well. But to enforce that again, I will say again, the condition of the mother determines the condition of the child, which is one of the problems we have. Well, let me just say this. As society originates with family, so does the authority of government. Period. So that's just keep that in mind. No one has government over your family. If society starts with family, then so does the authority of government, which is why government really, and whatever type of semantics or whatever people want to say, government is to govern the mental because man is mind. So now, again, I will say again, as soon as anyone does anything that is that affects you or your interests prejudicially, okay, you have jurisdiction over that. So you have to recognize when someone has done something or is doing something, even if it's a collective, organized effort, which is what these corporations have done. They have organized collectively, have certain choice words and everything that they utilize to actually affect you and your family prejudicially. It can't be any more simple than that. They make prejudicial decisions, and they don't have any authority to make any judicial decisions. They actually, it's to the point now where they make up the rules and regulations, which again are not law, that deal with what you might do. They're like, all right, we're going to make this ordinance because, the people think that everything we say is law. So, we're going to make this, and it has to do with what you might do, not what has been done, because they are so studied on the nature, on human nature to an extent, and on watching the families that they've divided and how they react with each other, especially how mothers and sons react, or mothers and their mates, sisters and their respective mates that they choose, their consorts, whatever, because many people don't get married. That's another issue. But, but you connect with them and you have a household, and he's a husband because he's a house binder. That's what it is. He binds the house, and what comes out of the house is what creates society. So we go right back to as society originates with family, so does the authority to govern. So they monitor all this. They have generationally affected the daughters who are giving birth to the babies and the sons. They've generationally affected them by having them under the jurisdiction of these family services. Now, on one hand, you're looking at it and saying, well, some people need intervention because they are messed up. What's wrong with the counsel from grandmama or the counsel from your family? And grandmama now might be affected because, let's face it, when you look at the age group, you have a lot of babies that had babies. Don't think that wasn't, in their plans, knowing that we were already not aware of who we were. No historical baselines, no historical information about who we were. And the truth is, if you have no historical information, you can't have any lawful information because history and law go together. So they already set it up through their teaching systems and institutions, corporate institutions that they call public schools. They already set up so that you would not have you would end up with generations of people who had no historical information, so they're just reaping their crop right now. And so for the generation, like you say, where do we start? Well, some of the elder sisters have already had babies. They're not going to have any more, but they got grandbabies, and they're also out there to try to assist the family and the nation to rise, which means the family to rise. So they can be a party to this if they can grasp it, but a lot of them might be agents against it because they grew up in it. So it's a montage of craziness, really, out of orderness, chaos. Chaos is the word, but out of chaos comes order. So if we can ferret through the chaos and identify it as best we can, then we can bring that order. But we have to know. We have to have knowledge. So in a way, we don't want to say, well, we got to start with the sisters having babies now, but we could because they're out there like fish out of water, and they're just products of this quote unquote family services system that they have. They're just products of it, and they're just baby breeders for them. They're baby breeders, and so one might say, well, how do we get out of it? What do we do? Well, their minds are ready to receive the information, but they also have to take that position because it is like an elephant with a chain that no longer is, that he had the chain for so long as a child, and the chain is removed, and they still think they can't move because you know that was family. And that's really what it's like to all the young sisters coming up. That's really what it is, truthfully and honestly. Like, that is what it is like. They have no authority over you. They can talk and threaten and all of that, but you have to have knowledge and throw that back on them. And then, of course, there's that lawful position of writing it. So important to write what has happened to you, even though a lot of them don't even realize what is happening. You know what I'm saying? And to put that into Supreme Court and international community. If all the sisters who are products of this division of family and this themed authority, and this really, it's not just division of family, it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that because they're stealing your babies. And a lot of
it's genocide. It's genocide and it's human trafficking because, and it really is troubling. It's very troubling to me to hear anybody even make a presumption that the mother, after she gave birth, voluntarily put her brand new baby into slavery. It's very troubling to hear that, but it also exhibits how we have been mentally conditioned to actually blame a mother after going through X amount of hours of labor to make some sort of statement that she voluntarily did that. It is just an example of how well the mental programming has taken effect, because here's what has really happened, and we've got to get this into our head. The questions we need to ask ourselves is, what is the birth certificate for? Why do you need a birth certificate to enroll a child into a school? What is the purpose of that? Where is the benefit? These are the questions that need to be asked. Now, I know they will say things like, well, that's a form of identification. No, it's not. It's not a form of identification. And why would a young child need to be identified when his mother is standing right there? But you know what?
Well, but also, what is a certificate? I mean,
exactly.
It implies some sort of exchange. So at that point of birth, you're exchanging. Now, also, it's usually a financial thing, but also you can kind of put it to the fact of like a title to a car. They give you a certificate of title.
Yes.
Now, here's the deal, though. The true title to the child being born is the flesh and blood child itself. See, that's the true title, which is what they're stripping. That's why, Mom got to understand.
Or they're making an attempt. They're making an attempt to strip it, and because here's the thing: instead of people trying to figure out a way to blame mother, why don't you really think about that instrument and go? And I will challenge you to go and look up in the United Nations Convention on Genocide and Human Trafficking. Now, when you read those two documents and you do some research on and human trafficking, then you look at that so-called birth certificate and tell me what it is evidence of, and then to add the icing onto the cake, a certificate is supposed to just be certifying that there is a title somewhere. Now, where would that baby's title be? Because
it's the baby itself.
In the American Constitution, modern European states, they don't have the authority to grant titles. That's why you'll never find a title to anything. And if you do, you have evidence of treason because the Constitution forbids the granting of titles. So we need to stop trying to blame. We need to stop trying to blame. The prophet said, I've come to teach you to love. We need to love instead of hate. And he's so right.
But hold on. There's no blame to be sought, because the truth of the matter is that when the child is born, and I've said this before, but really think about it. When a child is born, you said the child was, I don't know, John, I don't know, whatever, right? They took what you said that you called your child. They put it into a all caps and created a certificate and created a bond with that. And really, that's, of course, proof of human trafficking. Absolutely. Your mother didn't do that. And so really there's no blame there. The only thing to blame, if there were, that we had no knowledge of what we're discussing today to even accept this situation of a birth certificate as some lawful document without knowing that it in itself is proof of human trafficking. That's the only thing, and there's no really blame there, because a lot of people say, well, it's the birth certificate is a contract. But see, the only people who say that are people who do not know what a contract is, because it's not a contract. It never was a contract. It failed to all the tenets of a contract. But see, this is what I said earlier. They throw and use words. So there's people out there thinking that the mother puts you into a birth certificate contract when the birth certificate is not a contract. So the only thing that we've been guilty of as people is not having enough knowledge to recognize recognize what it actually is. But that's what we're breaking down today, because that certificate and all that goes with it is efforts of another family, as you said earlier, trying to get you to adopt your family into their shit, their stuff. That's what it is. That's what it is. And once you know that and you really have that on your dial plate, which means you can dial it up, because that's what you got to do. You got to be able to dial up this information right off the breast. You understand? Once you do that, then you can go into it and rebuke it with no sweat. No problem.
Yes. Now, and this is a great segue. You know, we're talking about what you do when the so-called department, which is really a division. It's a division of family services, but it's a corporation. It's a corporation. We have to recognize that. But before we get into that, I just want to say one thing, okay? Because there are people who make the presumption and assumption that that birth certificate is a contract. But here we have to stop and think. There are three basic elements to every contract. Three basic elements to every contract. There must be full disclosure. There must be offer. There must be acceptance. All right? Now, I am a mother. I've never gotten full disclosure. No mother on planet Earth has ever gotten full disclosure, because if any mother had gotten full disclosure, they would have first been told that the birth certificate comes out of the Maternity Act. All right? The Maternity Act was established to make sure or ensure that newborn babies of European descent survived. All right? But because it targeted a certain group of people, it was repealed as unconstitutional. That has to be disclosed. All right? Now, number that's number one. Number two, there must be an acceptance. And I'm going to go with acceptance because everybody thinks, well, she signed the contract, so she accepted. But what was offered? What was offered?
And what is your signature?
Somebody tell me, what did they offer the mother for her flesh and blood baby?
Right.
Sounds like human trafficking to me, because it's not relevant what she got or what she may have gotten or what you may presume or think that she got. Whatever the offer was in terms of substance is irrelevant. What is relevant is that there was a flesh and blood being traded. That's human trafficking.
With a certificate.
That's human trafficking. Now, and I know she didn't know that. I don't care how wishy-washy the mother is. I know she didn't know that.
Because it wasn't disclosed, which means it can't be a contract.
Exactly.
So what we're saying is, listen, if you effectuate the law, all this crap right here, you can get out of everything because it's all unlawful.
That's right. That's right. It is. It's all unlawful, which is why look, if the prophet said, if I can just get you to thinking, you'd free yourself. He also said, I came to teach you to be yourself. People, we got to, many of us haven't even found ourselves yet because we've been so twisted up by modern Europeans, we don't know who the hell we are. And I don't mean in terms of your DNA, because, see, all that DNA is bullcrap. There's only two families operating on this continent. You got the Moor, which the Sebi, we know they're carbon-based people, not melanated. You got the Moors, and you got the modern Europeans. Those are the only two families. That's the two governments operating on this continent and around the world. That's it. There's nothing else. There's no other human species but those two. And so the prophet said, be yourself. We have to learn who we are. We have to learn who we are. That's why you have the astrology wheel to help you to learn who you are. And trust me when I tell you this, the more you learn about yourself, the less talking you're going to want to do. And that's how you can always tell when people ain't even begun to find themselves. Because the people who haven't begun to find themselves do so much unnecessary talking, talk. If they would stop, not you, if they would stop and start just studying themselves, you would fall into studying yourself because there's so many facets to your being. You would just be absolutely amazed at everything about you that you hadn't even paid attention to. You didn't even know was sitting right there all along. And you would go into digging into the astrology wheel as it relates to the energies that you came in under more because you want to know more about you.
Mm-hmm.
In the bibliotext, it says the kingdom of heaven is within, but nobody looks within. Everybody's looking without.
You know, what a segue to what I wanted to add here. For those who do read the bibliotext that they call the Bible, which is really an elementary astrology book, a book of what is, what was, and what is to come. It says so right in. It says so, right? But in Revelation, there's two. I wanted to read. I'm getting the Peter's one because in Peter's something it says, and I'm going to read it to you. It's being printed right now. It actually says that they will make human trafficking out of you. So see, this is what. So even those who think that they have read the quote unquote Bible, they really don't know how to read it, and they really don't really know what it is at all. And those writings are ancient writings, and it is a book of what is, what was, and what is to come, which is a forecasting. And that forecasting is really based on the energies, which is the movement of the planetary bodies, whether they're within the solar system or coming in after so many years at some point on their cycles of travel, because all of the planetary bodies have a cycle of travel, but there's 7 that are most influenced and constantly in a certain rotation in this solar system where we are on the Earth, and therefore has its effects more prominently, which is why we deal with the Circle 7. Now, the whole deal is Wheel of Fate, which is what the astrology wheel is, but you can't get off of it until you know what it is, period. And then, of course, I said 7 most influential, but then there's the other 3, which are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which is the triune principle that breathed out the 7 Elohim. That's what they're talking about. So you're not going to get off of that if you know what it is. So now, in that book, though, for those who do read it and don't know what they're reading, it says in Peter's, this is small print, but I got it, Peter's 2, you're bigger for me? No, it won't print big. Peter's 2, this is a little bigger, thank you. Peter's 2:3. And through covetousness shall they with feigned, that means feigned, all right, words, make merchandise of you. Judgment now of a long time lingereth not, and their damnation slumbereth not. So, and through covetousness shall they with feigned words make merchandise of you, whose judgment now of a long time lingereth not. That means we are in those days. And their damnation slumbereth not. So look at it. Their damnation of you and the family, of us all in the family, they ain't slumbering with that. They come up with something new all the time. That's why it's so important when we share information. Who gets the information, and do they take and run with the information without the true foundation of the information, and then go and give these those who are making trafficking out of you ammunition because of your weakness when you came to try to counteract. It's called counteract everything that's being done. But you know what? We have decided at this point, we shared information, but as far as this family services thing is concerned, and that the vision that they use to divide the family, conquer the family, put the babies into slavery, we're going to just put it out there. But we can't just keep putting it out there for those who don't grasp it. It's final. Like, we're going to be also doing a 2-week conference or 2-week demonstration at the that New York around this right here. It's almost like for once and for all type thing, for real, because it says, their damnation of you slumbereth not, and your judgment, which has been of a long time, lingereth not. So that means you have to have knowledge in this sense that it's not lingering. Your judgment, all of our judgment on it is no longer going to be lingering, and they ain't slumbering in their damnation. So you got to be on it and stop being, and wake up, So So that's the way it is, and those who can capture it will. Now, Revelations 12:4 says, and this is how it's dealing with the children and what they have set up and effectuated. What I'm getting ready to read, they have effectuated through corporate constructs and protocols and organizing procedures. This is what they have done. They've taken this Revelations 12:4 and they've actually effectuated it into process and procedure. And it says, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Did you hear?
Yep.
And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And what they have done, they study this more than you, and they understand it from a serious, more serious position rather than a belief system. And, somebody's going to save me instead of looking on the inside. They looked on the inside. And so they actually effectuated a process to devour your child as soon as it's born. And that's what they've done. It's already, yeah. And that's another one, kill the first one on this day. But this is what they've actually effectuated. And so for all those sisters and people who read the Bible and swear they're good Christians and they know this, they don't know that right there. That's part of the revealing, revelations. That's it. So if you could just accept the fact that they've taken that to devour your child as soon as it's born, and they have really figured out how to put it into effect on this earth. It's an earthly thing. It's an earthly thing because remember, Christianity in itself was for their earthly salvation, not yours anyway. But they have figured out how to do. They put it in process. All right, they put it in process. Now, I just want to say this, and I do want to read the exhibit A, B, C, and D, and it's not long at all that the sisters can use, and we got to figure out how they can get possession of these things, because I really began to realize that people study what Moors put out. People, this is a war. This is a civil war. This is a civil war. And the truth is that they can't continue to devour your child, and they can't continue to put you in human trafficking. They can't make any finances. That's why they've taken what is law, turned it into something else, and have that they call law that isn't, and make finance off of victimless crimes, which means that if there's no victim, there's no, which is a corpus delicti, there is no crime. And then on the civil level, if there is no damage done to, say, someone's property, then there's no charge. There's no crime either. I mean, there's no civil charge. And that's it, and that's all. You have a right to do what you want to do, provided you do not interfere with another's right to the same. Now, I know that the condition of our people and of this world is so messed up because people don't have this foundation of information in their spirit or in their dial plate. But, we're going to have to change that, because the paradigm is upon us, and you could be standing here in this dimension, and then you could be in another dimension moving right on through with people who have the same foundational informational value as you do. That's how it goes, because that's just how it goes. I don't know how to explain. It's all about Amanda's mind. You will find yourself where you manifest yourself. So that's why it's important to stay away from negative energies and things like that, because then that's what you will be with. Period. So now, the condition of the mother determines the condition of the child. We've said this 1,000 times, and we're going to continue to say it. Once you correct yourself, your children fall under your status. We already know you don't need a brilliant instrument that produces any trafficking. Simple as that. And it is determined by a corporation, of which the hospitals and other institutions and agencies of the corporate states are in collusion with, but only because we have not been able to break it down in the past generations. We also need to be aware that, as an example, New York State is not state of New York. Now, New York State, as an example, or any of the union states, they are Ohio State, New York State proper as a republic. But state of New York that's why you could go back to the establishment, as you always told them to do, and find that it's a corporate. Well, they were all corporations anyway. But the trickery here is that New York State and state of New York, New Jersey, state of New Jersey, Ohio State and state of Ohio. These collusions are happening with a twist of words by state of Ohio, state of New York, which has nothing but, they're nothing but corporations from the establishment, as corporations came around, 1870s or so.
Yep.
For the most part. So these
companies / corporations was established around the 1500s when Morocco entered into a treaty with Great Britain. But then the modern Europeans decided they want to stay here and continue running those corporations or companies, and so there had to be a treaty with them. And that's where you get the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1787. So, yeah.
Right. But what I'm saying, most of the twist on words of state of, they all came well later. But it's a trickery because of our sleepiness, sleepy-headed Moors, and needing to wake up, not studying, not looking within, therefore knowing who they are, and that they are the law manifest the moment they were birthed from their mother's womb. They never paid attention to the fact that it is the state of New York that is making all of these things. If you really look at it, not New York State. It's the state of Ohio, not Ohio State. We went through Ohio, but all of the respective states, they have another corporation that they established well after, and those are the ones that you're getting these certificates from and that are colluding and all that as straight up. In other words, they let you know that they're straight up corporations, but they also did it because they knew that you weren't paying any attention. And the person who's not paying any attention, well, guess what? We go back to they have done and conducted prejudicial activities that affect your interests. But you just didn't know. So we're saying that to find it to be true. So with that, they're colluding. Now, I wanted to say there's different there's various situations people find themselves in. In other words, there's some sisters that are waking up now and they still have children of young age, and they're minding their business, and all of a sudden somebody from next door or whatever, the apartment downstairs, calls the family services, right, and says that you beat your child last night, all right? I know there's people out there that know exactly what I'm talking about because it happens, because that's their way of gaining entry into your life if they didn't have it before. Am I correct with that scenario? I know that I am.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right.
So that's right. This is their little slick way of gaining entry because they gain so much ground. So what you would send to them off the bat, it's called a lawful notice and warning. That's what you would do, all right? They're going to either leave a calling card because you didn't answer the door, you weren't home, or what they do with that is they take the child and ask questions later. Ain't that something? Now, they're taking the child under the auspice, although it's like an illusion, like Neptune's energy is an illusion that disintegrates, and that's what they're using. They take the child and ask questions later because they're basing it on the fact of this shaky birth certificate thing that says that the child actually is their child under their jurisdiction. And they also do that when you are married and you got a marriage license because you married the state. You see, unfortunately, the preacher or the reverend in your church says that everything that goes on in his that church is, the house of God. And, everything that goes on is under the, jurisdiction of God or whatever, right? And the reality of that, the truth about that is that same Reverend Preacher Jones, whoever he is, goes outside of his normal clergy, and he goes into what's called secular clergy. Now, secular clergy simply means business, which ain't got jack to do with God, all right, or the house of God that he claims you're under. And most people get married in that house or under the authority or by their minister or preacher or whatever. So when he goes into secular clergy, he steps out of his normal clergy and he agrees to submit the marriage license, or to encourage you to fill out the marriage license that he will make sure gets to the state. But at that time, what he did was, and he sold your entire family out, for real.
Mm-hmm.
Real. But yet he comes back on Sunday talking about this is the house of God. Now, what I'm telling you is true. You can look it up for yourself because it's true. Now, the reason that he does it, no one knows everybody's thinking behind reason, but the main reason that he does it is because they told him that that church wouldn't have to pay taxes if he did this. But the truth of the matter is Aboriginal indigenous people, upon your ancestral estate, you don't have to pay taxes to those to those corporations that are not government, because these people that he's given his license to isn't even government. But yes,
that's right,
call themselves government. And like I said earlier, they use words. They say they're government, and you and your family believe they're government, and your preacher says they're government too. So they sell that your marriage license. He sells you out by having you get this marriage license, but this license means that you need permission. So when you really think about it, why would you need permission from a corporation at 125 Main Street, right, where they're operating from? Why would you need permission from them for you to do anything, really, but to marry? See, because you do need permission to marry, because the marriage license is from the Union States, 18? I got to look at CMA's work, because somebody can correct me on that. I don't have it in front of me right now. That marriage license had absolutely nothing to do with you. That marriage license had to do with these modern Europeans. And the origins of it had nothing to do with you. They were trying to save their own little families, into their junior, quote-unquote, white society. So you need to know the origins of that, just like you need to know the origins of Christianity in the first place. But let's just keep it on, these little small milestone bases. So that's what your preacher did. Now, I don't care what he tells you, that's what he did. It's called secular clergy. My question would be, why is this the house of God, and everything that goes on is from the house of God, and all the activities is under the house of God, and then he steps out of his regular clergy and goes into secular clergy and sells you and your family to a corporation, because that's what it is. It's not government. It's not government. So now, with that being said and done, now they come under the fact that you have a birth certificate that you did not rebut, you have a marriage license, which means you put your whole family under it. Now, they come knocking at your door because somebody else said that you beat your child, and they could be lying. They just mad at you for something. But they're not going to come and ask. They're not going to ask questions first so much. Even though they might want to come to ask you some questions, they feel they can come with the authority to remove the child and ask the questions later. Now, this is the most devastating thing that can happen to a sister. It actually knocks her to her knees and puts her in a position where she can't really fight or think as clearly as she wants. As a matter of fact, it strips her of all of her motherhood, devours her, even though she's got to find the strength. Because guess what, sister? You better find the strength, because that's the fight. That was the blow to you. And now you got families upon families that are raised with watching that go down. Just like I said, and we're going to talk about the sons, who have seen generations and families of their daddies being put in jail for non-supported child support, which is absolutely unlawful and ludicrous. They are affected by seeing that and wanting to do better, but they're wanting to do better for a corporation who is trying to keep them enslaved instead of wanting to do better for their family and for the nation and for themselves and for, whoever they say their encouragement is, because it damn sure shouldn't be no corporation that's operating out of a building on 125 Main Street. It just should not be that. It just should not be that. You can't want to do better for that, no matter what type of Roman soldiers or policy enforcement they have and how many, threats they make. Because first, family services come at your door. Now listen to this. The top of the page says lawful notice and warning. You got to get serious, mothers. You got to protect your baby. And then underneath that, of course, it's centered. As a reminder, it says that as society originates with family, so does authority or government. Reference, source of law, John Bouvier's Encyclopedia of Law, Francis Rawls' third revision, page 1366, definition of government. That's right. Now, this serves, for this purpose, I'm going to call the diapers worker, her name is going to be Sharon Stone. Now, give me a name for you. Give me an name for okay, because you got to put yourself in here. So I would say this serves as a lawful notice. This is the first thing you got to do as soon as you get that calling card, or as soon as they come. If you don't open the door or whatever, this serves as a lawful notice to any and all parties involved in this alleged matter, namely Representative Sharon Stone of the XYZ Family Court, because that's who they send. They send a representative there of the XYZ Family Court or XYZ Division of Youth and Family Services, or whatever they call themselves, in regards to myself, or if they gave you a case number, or case number 1234, wherein the above family services court representative or representatives of same and any and all other parties involved, seen and unseen, known and unknown, disclosed and undisclosed, will be prosecuted at the full extent of the law, as both criminal and civil charges will be filed on any and all of the agencies and corporations and against the succession of natural beings who comprise the agencies and corporations at the international and Supreme Court level, and not at the state / big S, little s, Supreme Courts, nor at the county or at any other district or municipal level, in both their private and their professional capacity, for their collusion and depriving the rights of the people and committing fraud, treason, and genocide against the people and against any and all of, or you could say against myself, you could specify it because you're talking about yourself, any and all of their oath-bound obligations and fiduciary duties, if they have them, inclusive of impersonating an officer of the court. So right there you're saying, because usually the family services come, they say they got a court, they say they got officers of the court, et cetera, et cetera. You're talking about every last one of them, the ones you see, the ones you don't see. That's all. All right? This notice and the attachments listed below will be sent to the carbon copy CC list below and serves as lawful notice. And then you put, an unconstitutional act is not law. It confers no rights and imposes no duties, affords no protection. It creates no office. It is in legal contemplation as inoperative as though it had never been passed. That's Norby versus Shelby, because they try to come with you with the state ordinances and laws and stuff. They're not law. It's not constitutional. It's not law. Officers of any court have no immunity when they are violating a constitutional right from liability. That means, for they are deemed to know the law. That means that they call themselves officer of a court. It's saying that they have no immunity from their liability whenever they violate a constitutional right. And the reason is because they are deemed to know the law. But this case law, Owen versus Independence, is telling you that if they're coming to you and it ain't with law, then it has no standing. Our problem is not knowing what law is. And then in the end, you put notice to agent, notice to principal, notice to principal, notice to agent. And then you get your CCs, where you're going to send it to. You're going to send it to the representative. That's right. She's working for the Division of Family Services, but you're going to send it to her, too. You're going to send her one specifically, all right? And then you're going to send one to her supervisor. Then you're going to send one to the director of the specific family service unit that they work out of, because they got them all over the place, right? Then you're going to send it to the head of the child services of that particular state corporation, their head, wherever that is, because they have that. They have a state head department, and then they have regions, and then they have whatever. Then you're going to send one to the department, State Department Attorney General Eric Holder. It's a lawful notice. You ain't asking nobody for jack. You just sending them a lawful notice. And you're going to send one to the local state attorney general. And you're going to send one to the governor of whatever that so-called state is. And to the department, to the State Department Secretary of State, all right? And that's the D.C. address. And to the local Secretary of State, to Interpol, and to the United Nations World Court. And the attachments are, I don't know, and we're trying to look at this to perfect it. That's just a lawful notice and warning. But you will have to always attach an exhibit to all your papers, because you're building a suit. So, for instance, this is Exhibit A, lawful notice and warning. You're saying, look, I'll let them know. All right, but the B is cause of action, and then there's the written in nature of discovery, and then there's the preclusion of law. Now,
well, what they tend to show, I'm sure they can probably send any documentation that they have sent, well, copies of it, of any documentation that they have sent. But also, what you want to do is you definitely, look, you got to do the historical research to determine how they even got established. You got to research the corporation. These are not government agencies. They were hired. They are hired contractors. They're hired to administer a program. 99.9% of the time, I would even go so far as to say 100% of the time, they are only administering programs that are supposed to apply to corporations that are engaging in commerce. That's right in their documentation. If you go and you do the research, a lot of them come in under various different statutes. Right in every statute has a purpose. Right in the purpose, it says what their purpose is. It's of a commercial nature, so they don't have anything to do with the people. But the people will never know this until they do the appropriate research. And you got to go, and you can't go, and you're not, let me just say this, much of your research you can sit right at your computer and do. You don't want to go here, there, and everywhere visiting these Europeans like they're your friends.
That's right.
You don't have time to visit.
That's right. And that,
you don't have time to visit. You only have time to research and send a writ asking for, little pieces of information in a non-threatening manner.
Right. Well, yes. Well, see, now, in the affidavit of fact cause of action, it does state questions arise as to this type of administrative tribunal / court employees and officers of the same and their lawful jurisdiction and delegation of authority, whatever their name is, over the people. And the legislation, it says the administrative court tribunal must be in possession of it and must produce it as proof. But actually, in order to have validity of judgments prior or intended, family administration, family courts, tribunals, and services or agents of those agencies are not granted judicial authority by the legislature to act upon the natural people. So that's saying,
that's right.
That's saying it's not for use, but the first thing you've got to know is you are the natural
That's right.
people. That has to be on your dial plate. But see, here's the problem, for generations, we have daughters being raised under the jurisdiction of this bull crap and under their authority. They have not been acting as if they're natural people because they've been birthed under something totally different, you see?
And that right there is very deep. And I say that to say this. When you have a sister whose liberties have been so blatantly violated like that, she has an obligation. She has more of an obligation to go and research and put things out, not just to redeem herself, but to create an example for other people to see and follow behind. I mean, it's not just to create an example for other people to follow. She is redeeming herself. When your liberties have been violated to that extent, you have an obligation to first redeem yourself. And if you can't see that you have to first redeem yourself, then you're never going to look to redeem your baby.
Never. You're just going to become a baby maker for them. That's it, and that's all.
Yep.
And, it's interesting, too, because check it out. Here's where we're getting to the muck and mire of it. Now, because, and I'm just reading this portion, but there's something that we need to recognize here. Unless there exists a contract between the parties, will of the party or parties, of which contract must be existing by free, prior, and informed consent. Said contract must bear might, must not contain any adhesions, must not be done under threat, duress, or coercion, must be clear, concise, and specific, and must not be construed to deny any of my reserved and retained rights. Now, right there, they can't produce that, but what they will
That's right.
produce, what they will produce, and this is where you got to really get in, they'll produce something that you signed possibly under the jurisdiction of these family services that implies that you agree with what they're doing. And let's face it, you have agreed because of lack of knowledge, right? So now
but also you want to interject. I don't know anybody who has not signed an agreement under threat, duress, and coercion, which automatically voids it.
But hold it. No. What about the sisters who have coming up under this, who have signed stuff? Okay, what I'm saying is now they got to get into contract. No, that's what I'm saying. And they need to take whatever that is and piece that shit apart and still deal with the authority that family services never had and the fraud and the trickery and deceit that came with it, or the fact that they never had any judicial authority. So, boy, it's a defective writ from the jump. But they never had any authority and break it down. They're going to have to learn how to break that down because they may have signed something that makes an assume. But there can be no assumptions, though, when it comes to violating anyone's right.
Well, here's the thing, okay? Because if you go back to how they kidnapped the children,
right?
All right? When they kidnap the children, and we've seen this in some of these movies that they air on their TV, on their broadcast networks. We've seen it on the internet. When you see the trauma and fear that has been instilled in those children, when they rip them from the only family that they know that looks just like them, that fear goes through their life. So anything that they subsequently in the future sign was signed under threat, duress, and coercion and fear of life, because that's all they've ever known.
How do they prove that unless they themselves have knowledge of the fact that
you gotta. Well, and this is where this is where it's going to be painful. In my opinion, I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know how I couldn't be wrong, but I don't know how I could be wrong. But I know if you was to ask anyone who ended up in, say, a foster home to go back and recall how they got there,
Yeah.
That experience will be traumatic. That is the experience that needs to be documented. Because let me tell you, and I had this conversation with a brother that was involved in the so-called social services and was a pastor in the church to boot. Gave him food for thought because they got so many of us mentally conditioned. This brother really thought he was doing good until I broke down to him. If you're saying, how do you, I said, how do most of these children come into this system? He says, oh, because their mother treats them bad. I said, exactly what does that mean? Oh, they don't have a place to live. I said, so you're telling me with all these housing projects, they couldn't just give a sister a home so that she can keep her baby with her?
Hello?
Well, she didn't have any food. I said, you're going to tell me that with the food stamp program and the food voucher program, they couldn't put this woman on food stamps and give her some food vouchers so that she can feed herself and her baby, so that she can keep her baby with her?
No, they want to do human trafficking and have ownership.
Exactly. And when I started breaking this down, I said, look at around you, man. Look at all these housing projects. Look at they got the what do you call it, the Section 8 program. They got all these programs. You're going to tell me that they couldn't put this woman on an emergency? Look, if you have a fire and you lose your house and you have nowhere else to go and the shelters are full, they will put you on emergency Section 8. You're going to tell me that when a sister has a baby and she has nowhere to go, they can't put her on emergency Section 8, but if my house burned down and I ain't got no check, no child, they can put me on Section 8?
Yeah. Well, we know what it is. We know what it is. That's why knowing what it is can help to disband this. Now, the other thing, they may come up with, as a result of not knowing what you just said, they may have signed some things or whatever like that. But here's the deal on that. They may come up with and say, well, this was signed and court-ordered by Judge so-and-so. Well, first of all, he is not a judge if he is in a family court, a so-called family court, or any administrative tribunal, anything like that. That man or woman is not a judge. Stop calling them that because they're ministerial officers. So here's what you have to know about ministerial officers, okay? This is considered a substantive point of right. This is the case law. Ministerial officers are incompetent to receive grants of judicial power from the legislator. So their acts in attempting to exercise such powers are necessarily nullities. So right away this is for the sisters that are trying to go back and undo the threat, duress, and coercion stuff. I mean, there's so many ways to skin the cat, but these people who said this was a court order from Judge so-and-so, this is how you deal with it. You have to have knowledge of that. They didn't have any authority to adjudicate in the first place, okay? And they would be considered also, if they want to call themselves a court, they would be considered. Well, first of all, there is a case law that says that anything that causes a court, they can be, it's unlawful. New York Judiciary Act. I don't have it right now, but it says that basically it says that any association, group, person, corporation, don't matter, that calls themselves a court can actually be fined for calling themselves a court. Hello, how about that? Because they're not. So they're and any inferior, so-called inferior court. The definition of inferior court denotes any court that is subordinate to the chief appellate tribunal in the particular judicial system, example, trial court. But it is also commonly used as a designation of a court of special, limited, or statutory jurisdiction, whose record must show even with that, even if they said they were which really has nothing to do with law, or that they were limited, or they had special limited powers, or whatever. Even if they did say that to you, their record still, they must show the existence and attaching of jurisdiction in any given case, no matter what they say. And they must show the existing and attaching of jurisdiction in any given case in order to give presumptive validity to their judgment. So, sisters, even if they did say to you, well, Judge so-and-so of the family court so-and-so, whatever, if they don't have the judicial authority, whatever he said was his court order, it's not a court order because they had no validity or power to make any of these types of judicial decisions. They're using the system of court judicially, I would say trial because they never put you on trial. They always have hearings. They're using it for their own purpose and benefit, and they're using this play on words. As soon as you hear judge, you think you're dealing with a judge. As soon as you hear court, you think you're dealing with a court. You're not. So they're using those things and telling you that it is valid, and it's not. So you can, sisters, even if you have been under the thumb of these family services for generations because your mama was there, your mama's mama was there, you can still get out of this based on pure law. That's what I said. This is what we're trying to get across. But you have to have knowledge of that and recognize when you're under threat, duress, and coercion as well, and rise above that as well. So, failure for them to produce any delegated authority is proof that the agency, the court, the tribunal, namely the so-and-so family court, whatever it's called, is assuming an authority and judgment over me and my family and move to deprive our liberties and to commit human trafficking and genocide upon my family without the right of action or authority to do so, as I have not relinquished or waived. And then you have to have on your dial plate when you say that, the waivers of constitutional rights. Not only must they be voluntary, and you know that you didn't volunteer for this, although it appears you did by signing something, but waivers of constitutional rights, not only must they be voluntary, they must be knowingly intelligent acts done with sufficient awareness. And we know by even having this discussion that you were not sufficiently aware at all. So just with that one case law alone, Brady versus U.S., that's another way for you to get your spirit and your mind right and then lawfully apply the law to get yourself out of it. But you have to have knowledge of these things in order to combat it. So there it is right there. You didn't waive any right. You can't really waive a right. And if it was a real court, their duty would not be for you to waive any rights. Their duty would be to uphold the rights and liberties of the people. That's what the American National Constitution is about, to keep you from being violated by these corporations. But we've gone generations and generations being violated. So we're giving the necessary information to get out of this. Now, there's another one, right of privacy is a personal right designed to protect the person from unwanted disclosure of personal information. So for those who might be in that position where they initially are getting called upon and they're saying, well, what's your name, rank, serial numbers, SSN, and all that, you don't have to disclose that to them. Now, it says that only if it's some government or federal program or whatever like that. I don't have that in front of me. But even with that, these people that are coming at you are not government. They're not a government entity. They are a corporation, and therefore all corporations have no parity with the real. So it's identifying who is who. So if you ask them on a writ of a nature discovery, where does a contract exist? Like, for instance, written nature discovery. The following questions are in the nature of discovery and are placed before the first party claimant, representative / agent of whatever family services it is, and the administrative court and or the administrative court tribunal agency, whatever that is, seeking full disclosure, which must be lawfully responded to in kind, and all points of inquiry must be answered. So you're going to answer them a question: does a contract exist between you and them? They are your signature. Now, let's say, like we said before, they give you something that you sign. First of all, it's not a contract, and second of all, you can bust that up because it is something that is depriving you of your liberties and assuming jurisdiction over you. based on so-called officers of a court that didn't have validity. So you see how deep the rabbit hole goes? That's how you got to spiral yourself out of this, okay? Because they never had the authority in the first place, all right? And then if they do, like I said, if they do say it exists, then they must produce it. So when they produce it for the record, that's when you can tear that apart because it's not a contract. It's not mutual at all. And if the contract exists, provide proof that the said contract acts as a waiver of any of your rights, including your right to privacy, and to be left alone, protected under the Fourth Amendment of the American Constitution of 1790, all right, wherein your rights are secured and protected from encroachment. So all of this is what you have to deal with. So let them produce that. Then you can break that apart. And then it in itself, the so-called thing you signed is supposed to be a contract. It's not a contract. Or even if they say it is, you can break that apart because if it denies you of any of your rights, then it's called unconscionable. So that's when you get into the waivers of rights. Not only must they be voluntary, they must be knowingly intelligent acts done with sufficient knowledge. And so, therefore, they have to provide substantial and lawful, binding, consented, and granted this person who came to your door, Sharon Stone, the representative of the Family Services, and or the agency that they represent, whatever that's called, that you consented and granted rights over your children, and that they have rights over your children which supersede yours as a mother. And being Aboriginal and Indigenous, you have the individual and collective right to live in freedom, peace, and security as a distinct people, and a right to the full guarantees against genocide or any other acts of violence, including, and this is the one for y'all to hear, this includes the removal of Indigenous children from their families and their communities under any pretext. Under any pretext. That means there's nothing they can say, nothing they can present in writing, written form, or otherwise. Pretext. That means pretext that gives them the authority to take your child. You got to hold on to that. In addition, you have the individual right to life, physical and mental integrity, liberty, and security of person. So this is from the Rights of Indigenous People, Part 2, Article 6. As well, any state government agency, agent for the agency, Sharon Stone, that's the agent, right, cannot determine what is best for me or for my children. Now, lastly, and I love this particular case law, Moor versus Kansas, but this is where we have to, as a people, step up to this particular case law that I'm about to read. We have to step up to it. It says, under the United States Republic's constitutional system of government and upon the individuality and intelligence of the citizen, the state does not claim to control one's conduct to others, leaving one, that's you, the sole judge as to all that affects yourself. Moor versus Kansas. That we have to step up to. We have to deal with our intelligence in this matter. That's what the prophet said, always speaking in an intelligent tone. We have to step up to that. So, under the state republic's constitutional system of government and upon the individuality and the intelligence of the citizen, the state does not claim to control one's conduct to others, leaving one the sole judge as to all that affects themselves. So, lastly, on this one is produced for the record the delegation of authority for this service/agency. We already asked that, but in discovery, you're asking them to produce it. And any and all parties seen and unseen, pursuant to Article 3, this is where we get into the judge. They say they got a judge. This is how you knock that out the box, because you want them to produce for the record any and all other parties seen and unseen, known and unknown, pursuant to Article 3, Section 1 and 2 of the American Constitution of 1790, wherein there exists any right of action for them to probe, pry, search, and or seize any of my liberties, inclusive of my right to privacy and my right not to be compelled to contract, and substantiate the existence of any judicial authority to adjudicate over the natural people. This is the kind of stuff that no matter what, you must know and put forth. Now, to be honest with you, the very first one, Exhibit A, the warning, usually that puts an end to it all. I mean, it turns it around. Now, lastly, and then we can open up, you have a preclusion of law yourself. I, whoever you are, state for the record, and let the record reflect, that I have not entered into, nor do I wish to enter into, any contracts knowingly, willingly, intentionally, or unintentionally with Sharon Stone, representative for and or the particular, whatever the name of the family services is. Whereas, when no contract exists, there is no obligation. In order for an obligation to exist, the contract must exist, and it must not have adhesions. And the reason we're saying this is all civil, because there's no crime done, because there's no injured party. So all of this stuff they're coming at you with is allegedly civil. So the contract must exist, and it must not have adhesions, must be concise, and it cannot be an unconscionable contract that violates substantive rights of people unless it is void ab initio. And whereas any demand to compel me to act or perform must be a lawful demand, and whereas this particular court/tribunal, whatever it is acting under statutes which are not law. Any applicable law must be produced for the record, applicable to the natural people, must be produced for the record, because you already know the statutes ordinance, they're not for the natural people. No statutes can violate the rights secured by the people in the supreme law. The American Constitution of 1790, written for the United States of America, because all of them are operating supposedly under the United States of America, which is not America or the American law in that respect. I mean, they are under the Constitution, but this is what they are registered under. They're the respective 52 union states or whatever. And any and all establishments, let me read this again. Any applicable law must be produced for the record. No statutes can violate the rights secured by the people in the supreme law of the American Constitution of 1790 for the United States of America, and any and all establishments established under the same, i.e., any and every state, county, township, state constitution, state court, charter, subcharter, chapter, subchapter, association, entity, corporation, agency, and agent of the agency at all, inclusive of Sharon Stone of the so-and-so family court, and must abide, they must all abide by and cannot abrogate. Then you would say, see Article 6 of the American Constitution. Now, Townsend versus Smith, when acting to enforce the statute and an amendment to the present date, the judge of the municipal court is only acting as an administrative officer and not in a judicial capacity. Courts in administering or enforcing statutes do not act judicially but merely ministerially. And whereas the so-and-so Sharon Stone representative of the so-and-so family court, whatever, at all, are acting outside of its statutory limitations and violating substantiated laws, committing fraud, genocide, collusion, and treason, which is highly penal, and attempting to enforce under a non-existing or void contract and or to enforce by statute, which gives no validity or jurisdiction to any of their judgments conferred. And then supporters, if the court is not in the exercise of its general jurisdiction, and I'm just saying if they have it because they don't, but is in exercise of some special statutory jurisdiction, it is as such the proceeding as an inferior court, and it is not aided by the presumption in favor of jurisdiction. So what we're saying is when they tell you their court, tell you they're judges of these officers of these little family courts, whatever, it's telling you that they're acting statutorily. You already know those statutes don't apply to you as a natural being at all. And it's saying in this particular case law, Thompson versus Smith, that they are acting at and administering or enforcing statutes. They do not act judicially, but simply merely ministerially. So that's how you knock that out. Whereas the Family Service Court in Shallingstone, the representative of same, are all acting outside of it. I'm sorry, I missed something. I'm repeating something. What I wanted to say is this last one. If the court is not in the exercise of its general jurisdiction, but of some special statutory jurisdiction, it is as such proceeding as an inferior court, and it is not aided by presumption in favor of jurisdiction. That's the one I wanted to read. That means that even if they're acting as in some special statutory whatever, they're telling you by Smith's leading cases 816 that they don't have jurisdiction, period, because they're over what they admit, their administration and their statutes, which do not apply to you as a natural being. It doesn't, never did. Therefore, failure to address this matter lawfully, inclusive of the attachment of discovery, equates in law as to have addressed nothing and serves as a waiver for any claims you and any and all the parties involved, seen or unseen, known and unknown, are attempting or may attempt to assert over me and my family. Therefore, I demand your administration to cease and desist all contact with my family. I am allotting 7 days for a corresponding affidavit signed under penalty of perjury. Failure to do so lawfully places your administration in violation, in default in violation as follows. Now, this is the default in violation that they're placed in as follows. It's Title 18 U.S.C. Section 241 and 242. Should your administration attempt to proceed with this matter by way of threat, duress, and coercion without responding lawfully to this writ and acting lawfully and without due process of law, which is afforded to all, it constitutes a violation of the Fourth Amendment secured by the Constitution, as well as a violation of Title 18 U.S.C. Section 241 and Title 18 U.S.C. Section 242, deprivation of rights under color of law. That's your conclusion of law. Islam. I'm done.
Islam. I wanted to also just add in there because, I did say make a mention the United Nations Convention on Genocide, and while you were talking, I went and quickly pulled it up, and I just want to read, I think, something that is absolutely impacting. It was approved and proposed for signature and ratified by the General Assembly of the United Nations in 1948. All right? Now here, this is Article 2, because it's so impacting. Article 2, in the present convention, genocide means any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national ethical,
read that again.
in the present convention, all right? In the present convention, genocide means any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial or religious group as such. A, killing members of the group. Is that going on this continent? Yes. Yeah, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. That's what's going on with the mamas. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part.
Check.
Imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group.
What?
And this one here. Imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. That would be like your fluoride in the water, the food additives, birth control pills, forcibly imposed on you. And then the last one in Section 2, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. That's your foster.
Oh, my God.
Your so-called foster destruction.
Wait a minute, that's foster home stuff. They got you making babies.
That's right.
That's what the jurisdiction. They take your child and they give it to a foster home.
That's right. It's also human trafficking because
they get paid for that.
So-called foster, yes, right. They're paid for that. They get paid for that. That's human trafficking.
But wait a minute, before you go on, I just need you to, I want you to send it to me. I think I have that. But I need you to go back to the one about birth. No, the one about preventing birth, because we have some sisters, this one sister, doesn't matter who it is, they're they'll do things like you can have these other children if you give up these two older ones. And then they put them in.
That's right.
They've done that. Yeah, and then they'll say you can't have any more children. Who are they to tell you what's the birth control on you? That's preventing birth. Could you read that one more time?
That's right. This is all in Article 2, and that's Article 2, Section D. Let me just reread it again. This is Article 2. In the present convention, genocide means any of the following as committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial or religious group as such. A, killing members of the group. B, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. C, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. That's every housing project across the nation. Mm-hmm. Everything that goes with it. D, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. E, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group.
Foster home. They're really heavy on that right now. They got a lot of sisters. They can't take their children home from the hospital. They give them some reasons. Mm-hmm.
I just explained that whole Article 2 of the United Nations Convention on Genocide. Article 2 is the entire Department of Children and Family Services protocol.
Bingo.
That's their entire protocol.
So what you would do is you would take that article, because we want to perfect all of this that we're doing, because even though this is broken off into Exhibit A, B, C, and D, we need to add that as evidence. That needs to be
substantive evidence.
Exhibit number.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you could do the lawful notice and warning.
Yes, you can.
And then attach what that sets Article 2, Section B, and that would be the end of it, because that is what the family services do. And that would be the stronger. Okay, all right. You don't need to do all of these things. You shouldn't go that far. But at the same time, you need to know all of these things if you needed to. But I'm thinking just a warning and then attach that, and it should be over.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm. Isn't this also why we're saying that you have to let the international community know what's going on, because this is right. Mm-hmm.
They have provisions for this. They have provisions for this already in place. Also, we need to know, people need to know, look, that document, the key in that document that a lot of people miss, said nationals. That's code for you best declare your nationality.
Oh, you got that. I was going to say, what did the prophet say? He said, look, I tell you what, if you don't do nothing else, declare your nationality. Oh, see, that's right. That right there applies to you as a national. In other words, if you're not, you got to be a national or something, because everybody got nationality, whether they're aware of it or not. But if you don't make that claim, that's why you can't see. And let's get real. People have been going out doing stuff. I even know people talking about well, no, I don't want to talk about trust stuff. Doing stuff, making these claims that are for the natural people, but they have not claimed that they are in fact that they're national.
And here's the thing. And see, it's so simple, right? Because declaring means to be clear yourself, because you got to be clear. What is it that you're trying to be clear about? You're trying to be clear about what family do I belong to? Am I a part of the Moorish family, which is your carbon-based people? Or, no, that's not the only qualification, but I'm just saying. Or are you a member of the modern European family? That's what declaring your nationality is, and that's why you got to be clear. What family do you belong to? And see, these modern Europeans are. Exactly. You got all these people running around talking about, well, I got to go and get my DNA tested because I don't know what family I belong to. There's only two.
But there's only two things. And you know what? That's interesting. Let's go back to this too. There's only two. It's just and it's representative of the seal. There's only two things going on here. And
that's right.
The Great Seal, which is the pyramid, which is the symbol of civilization, ancient symbol of civilization. For the eagle, which we authorize as that nation. That's why it says one nation under God indivisibly, because we brought them into the fold. You see what I'm saying? And so these other people are making up these seals and trying to start new governments. And I don't give a damn what you start tomorrow or yesterday or whatever. Look, you're either under the daggone Great Seal of this thing. Everything really is under it. But you're either going to be the family of that or the family of that eagle that's still right there. That is it. That is all. Because that's for the pale-skinned nations of Europe.
That's right.
See, now I understand even better why he said we do not wish to amalgamate. He's talking about family issues. They're two different families. And it's just that simple. So this is why, I'll go back again. As society originates with family, so does the authority of government. So you can't say that you're under their family and they govern you. You have to be under your own family, and we are all one nation, which means family.
That's right.
There ain't one free national appellation. That's it. That's all. So it becomes so clear. So now when they see that, well, these fools, they honor their mothers and fathers, let's put them under our stuff, but they don't have anything so that they create these corporations that steal your stuff on paper.
That's right.
Only. Because as the prophet also said, no one but the great God of the universe can change your descent nature. Period. And so then we come into that finite part where people say, well, how do I know? And we have to say, well, the mother determines the condition of the child. It's not what your father is from that perspective in terms of nationality. It is what your mother is. And that's just the way it is. And it's not that, because you may be of the family of the European nations that, there should be hate for you. It just means that you should be in your lane and we should be in ours, and we should be one, living as one, which is what the Constitution, the treaty bringing peace, and the Constitution is the peace document, which is why we go back to why the prophet said the supreme issue is to enforce that national constitution, because if you do that, nobody will be molested. So you got to enforce it, and they got to enforce it. They're not enforcing it, they're violating it. And neither are us if we are not aware of it. But if we do enforce it, strengthen it, to strengthen ourselves and our family, we will find a different, you will get a favorable reply. Remember, he said that you will get a favorable reply, because that is the ultimate law of this land. However, it was written in the spirit of divine law. See, divine law, nature's law, common law, natural law, that is what it's written in, and we all must live by that. Anything else is your personal decision that you can have your little group or whatever you want, and you can do what you want amongst that, but that or compel someone else to contract in that. Nor can you can do whatever you want, provided that you don't prevent someone else. That you don't, you can live as you want to. I said it earlier. As long as you don't impede upon someone else's right to do the same. Again, that is also letting the states know. When I read that last point of law under Mugler versus Kansas, that The states don't claim to control one's conduct to each other. That leaves you as to what affects you, you know? So yeah, I understand about the amalgamate. It's all political because, see, political means once you claim your nationality, you just stated what your political allegiance is. And once you state where you live or where you live in your body, but once you say where you domicile, that determines your civil liberties and rights from being violated. You can't say, I am a member/citizen of the state of New York and expect to have civil liberties because they don't have any to give in their corporation. So these are the two most, I think, powerful things in regards to our allegiance to our family is that, like I said before, they have you thinking political is something else. Political is determined by what you say your nationality is. That's what political allegiance is. That determines your political allegiance, period, whatever your nationality is. And then where you say you domicile determines your civil liberties. And those two things right there, that's real cut and dry, real simple. You know what I mean? Just real simple. We have to get those together. So that means the Family Services Court and or all these other little inferior or whatever, they're established under, usually, I mean, what we knew is that they were established under the United States of America, who has limited jurisdiction. First of all, they have all of those states have limited powers and jurisdiction as is described in the Constitution itself. They are under limited. That Constitution is the yellow line on the highway. Stay in your lane. That's what it does. It's limited from the door. So now you can't go under that and not recognize that you're limiting yourself as well, and you're not paying any honor to your own mothers and fathers. So you can't say, yeah, I live in the state of New York or the state of Ohio or the state of whatever without recognizing that you just make yourself a member/citizen of an inferior jurisdiction. And then you wonder why you're not getting treated with superior authority. It doesn't add up. Islam.
Yes, you're so right, and this is why it's for these reasons. We're just really clarifying stuff. We're like people have to know.
What happened? Did your mouthpiece go out? All right. Looks like you dropped out. Let me just make sure you didn't drop out. No, you didn't drop out, but you're not connected. You dropped out, and you're on the host bench, so you got to call back in real quick. What's happening to her? I don't know if I don't know what happened. Hold on, everyone. Hold on, everyone that's listening. And Eve's going to get back in. Unfortunately, she was at the host bin. I need to know, can someone raise their hand for a question so that I can make sure that we are still on? I got someone that has their hand raised for a question, so let me open them up and make sure that we are still in.
All right.
Oh, are you there?
Right. Oh, my God. I thought I hung up and disconnected the show.
We didn't disconnect the show because I have it up on my screen.
I know, but, yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Moving right along. But it did say, do you want to end the episode now? Looks like the host has dropped out. I'm like, what? All right. So we need to ask a question.
We didn't ask any questions. Let me just say this to you.
Let me say this to you. Right as we were seeing if you were going to get back in, I couldn't tell whether the listeners were really still there. So I said, can someone raise their hand so who might have a question so I can make sure we're still on air? And if you look at the board, I've got 2 or 3 people with their hand. No, 2 people with their hands raised in reference to this. 1, 2.
We're still live. We got like 3 minutes left, so we're still live.
3 minutes left. But it's you mean you got in? Well, you got back in.
Yeah, I was able to. That's why I was able to get back in, because if it was 3 o'clock, I wouldn't have been able to get back in, and the show would have automatically ended. So here's the thing: we can take questions, or we can just use this as an introduction, because we are going to do 3 consecutive classes where we go in more in detail. I mean, you know, and so I mean, it's up to you. What do you want to do? I mean,
I think we kind of shared a lot of information here, and also let's mention too that let's add this. With this is going to have to come some doulas, or what people say is midwives, to actually start having. Some people are going to want to have their children not in the hospital, but see, at the same time, I would say that under lawful conditions, we shouldn't say that we don't want to have them in the hospital just because we don't want the birth certificate, because we can fight that, period, all day long without having to not do that. But I'm not suggesting that they do. The reason that they do have it in the hospital, the only reason I would suggest not to have it in the hospital is because on the real deal, they are stealing babies. You're still, okay, so you're scraping really bad.
Oh, sorry.
Very bad. Very bad.
All right.
Get it. That they don't have them in the hospital because they are now finding other reasons. See, because they were very comfortable with using your agreement to everything they said and did, and now that you're not necessarily doing that, they are now coming up with reasons to literally babies. One person told me because the person didn't want to vaccinate the baby. Well, again, we just read everything that has to do with that. But one of the things that we would highly suggest, if you are going to, is that prior to having a child, just like we displayed where Fonteas did it and his wife gave him the absolute authority, and they contacted and made contact with the hospital prior to even coming, what their status was and what they expected and what they would not be doing. So, and they were very effective with that, because these hospitals have this process. Remember, they're colluders. So from one side, you kind of like don't want to be there, but if you have to do that or you want to do that, at least let them know ahead of time. All right, and have this, have information known. You're not threatening them with anything other than, this is your desire, and make it real clear in written, not verbal, and written documentation. But the other thing is that because they are no longer as comfortable just taking your babies through bureaucracy and really through your lack of knowledge, that's really what it was, they now are coming up, still doing what they do, and they actually will do one or two things. They will take your baby, or you'll go into these hospitals and you'll die. I mean, you'll just die from a tooth extraction. Anything happens there. So with that being said, you need some homework prior to going in and having the baby. But I think it's going more towards just having the baby in natural birth at home. And then some people say, well, the laws of the state says, well, this is not about the laws of the state. That's the whole point. And I don't know. What do you have to add to that?
Well, yeah, and we need to recognize, because a lot of people don't, the state doesn't have any laws. The Constitution does not authorize states to write laws, all right? So we need to recognize that. All right, so they don't have any laws of the state. What they do is they have policies and procedures that the state use to administer corporations operating in a commercial capacity. That's it. Now, as it relates to, the sisters going into the hospital to have their children, their babies, look, what I would suggest is, even if you have a son that's there, you should also have a couple of sisters, because, historically, the sisters would all get together and they would have the baby together as a family, and they would be there to help, encourage, do whatever needed to be done. But it wasn't just you by yourself, and it wasn't you and the son. It was you and the sisters. So I'm not excluding the son. I'm just saying you need to have a parcel of sisters up in there that also know law and can effectuate it as well.
Right.
And you know, and be able to tell them. And the last thing, you must know that whatever they ask you to do, if you're not comfortable with it, you need to stand on your First Amendment right and simply say that is against my religion and shut up. Now, let me just say this. Sisters, you're the one that has to say it. You.
Right. That's what we're going to get to about the sons. Unfortunately, they play on the fact that they are very much aware that the condition of the child is based on the mother. Sorry, son. Sorry. That's just the way nature goes, all right?
That's the law.
So,
that's the law of nature.
And that's the law of nature, and that's the common law. That's it. So they'll play on you, son, at that moment. That's why you need to know what you're getting into. Both the mother and the father need to know what they're getting into prior to getting into it, because they will play on you, you know what I mean, and will ignore you and try to work on her while she might be in a weaker state. All right, so either you got to know what the heavens is going on, because, you know, even bringing that back to our discussion about family services, let me tell you what they're doing with you, sons, playing on you. You know, it's a lose-lose situation. First of all, that's the first thing that we need to really recognize about this thing. It's a lose-lose in that, you know, if the mother is conscious, they will work on the father. Then the father tries to act like he has a claim and he should see the baby for this week or that week or whatever like that. And then you've got sons with three, you know, I know y'all already heard this, 3-month-old babies in a stroller, which you do not need to have. The baby needs to be with his mother during that time for real. And that's natural. And so then, you know, you want what's best for the child, and so you'll fight with them against her, or she'll fight with them against you. And that's called a lose-lose all the way around. There's no winning in that. We have to act like family and be family and stick together no matter what in these situations. So they know that it's her, that they'll use what they want to use when they want to use it. All you have to do, son, is be aware of these things prior to, and not let them rope you into, you know, well, you're the secondary parent, and, you know, or, you know, if they find that the sister's trying to go against what they're doing, they'll play you. So, you know, it's important. But you know, yeah, to have family, like you said, a couple, another sister or whatever, that is aware of what's going on. I would suggest you listen to that tape we have that was done by the brother, and it's on the Sister Standing on Law page, I believe. Yeah, and I think it's also on the Return of the Matriarch page. Just listen to it, you know, and be aware, and don't let them divide you at that time, because that's all they really want to do. But I say now, they are actually taking their sisters' babies for dumb reasons right as they're in that daggone delivery room, or when the child goes to the maternity ward or the nursery. They'll come back with, well, your child has this or your child has that, and they'll ask questions. They won't. They'll take the child and won't let you come home, which is another devastation to the mother. So, with that being done, you know what I mean? Like, how do you counteract that? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you just not be bothered with them, or do you just know what you're going into ahead of time? Like, do you use them at all? Because they're stealing babies right there. For the hospital, they're stealing them. Putting them in foster home before you can even get them on your breast. Are you there, Annie? Did you drop out again?
I'm here. I'm here.
In agreement, don't you think they're coming up with more reasons to take babies? Dumb reasons. Like you're not going to vaccinate them. I know some sisters, they took baby because they refused to vaccinate and won't check it out. The mother's breast is the vaccination by nature. Now, that is a reason that they give for, like you said, oh, that's against my religion. And then don't start telling them what your religion is or what it contains or what it doesn't contain. It's none of their business. It's religious freedom, First Amendment.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's the power.
And that's why the prophet said you must claim your nationality and your religion. That's why he did the religious arm affidavit with the religious arm, which was what the MST was established for. The MST was established for, quite frankly, for the religious arm of that. Not to exclude the national, but that's why he said claim your nationality and your religion, because with religion, he said the freedom, the door to religion, the door swings both ways. And this is why. Once you say it's your religion, it's none of their damn business what your religion is and or what it contains, because if you start talking, they'll try to find ways to counteract your own religion. That's why you said say it and shut up.
That's right.
Because they'll sit there in those diapers, those Vision of Family Homes, to try to break you down about your religion, so that they can do a comprehensive study, the next system, break her down based on what they think they know. So they don't need to know nothing. That's what religious freedom is for, and the right to contract. You can't be compelled to contract with anything either. So we got to start effectuating that. For certain.
Yes, we do. And we need to, like you said, we got to study these things because we got to know them. We got to know them deep inside of us so that nobody trip us up. So that First Amendment right, we got to know it's against my religion and shut up. That's it. You're not there to educate or inform anybody.
Now, what did you just read on that international? It said to discriminate for nationality or religion. It says that in there. So that's what
it sure does. It sure does. Yeah.
You got to start claiming what that is, because we break down Christianity. The first thing we're going to tell you was established for the earthly salvation of modern Europeans. It was not established for your salvation at all. That's a whole nother class, but that's just the truth. And it's through that, Christian crusades, all of that, where they went around killing people and stuff like that. Look, man, no, it's not. So don't even claim that, because that's their stuff. That's it, and that's what a name is. It's not just when you really look up what name is, because some people have looked it up, and I had to show them. It is a Christian tag. Christian tag. That's what it is. That's why we say appellation. But moving right along, maybe we should take a couple of questions.
Well, we got two questions, and we got like 45 minutes. I mean, it's up to you. We got two callers.
I wanted to also mention that Sister Amila, which you met her at New York. I've been knowing her for a while. She's back in the Northeastern Territory. Will also be a party to our demonstration at New York. We really want to promote that for all sisters. We don't care what you are or think you are or not. We want to promote that to really effectuate some of what we were just reading and, this information that we're sharing, because that's what has to happen, and it's for all people to do. These are your rights, your liberties, because these corporations, they are there to really commit genocide and to take your babies and put them in foster homes, and they don't really care about you. And what they do is they destroy the mother in their demeanor, in their mental, in their psychological, in their emotional. They devastate
and the
them.
child.
And the child also, yes. That's what they do. And, it's just now more exposed than what it was. And also, as that is exposed, so is what they really, really are. And the knowledge base of the people the consciousness of the people regarding it is raising as well. But what they're doing is, like, you fight, you put forth and they put forth back, because that's their position. But eventually it will all be over, trust me. It'll all be over, because these are common things we're talking about. These are common things that is affordable to all. You know what I mean? It's not any prejudice. It's not any, only for me and not for you type. This is just common stuff, man, that everybody shares commonly. I mean, it's a sad state of affairs, but this is how you get out of it, so especially for the younger generation coming up, because they're going to need this information more because they're the ones who are giving birth, you know?
Yes, yes. All right, so do you want to take these two callers, or do you want to just...
Sure, why not?
All right, well, caller 919-793, you're live on the air. Please state your appellation.
Islam family. Islam family. This is Energy calling from Northwestern Mexham.
Islam.
Appreciate the class today. And I just like to say, yeah, when you stand on your squares, when you're going into these hospitals to, give birth to your child, yes, they will come at you with everything they got, but you got to expect that. I mean, they've been doing this business for a long time, and we're, trying to play catch-up. But I was just grateful for sisters like yourselves, Annie, Ross, for giving me the opportunity through RVBey publication to even begin to do the research. It started with my daughter being, kidnapped a couple years back, and once I challenged the so-called administrator/judge on the case, he let it be known that he didn't have no jurisdiction, stuff like that. So that studying is real, but it really does come down to mother, recognizing, realizing who and what she is, and everything really revolves around her. And once she get it clear with her, sons and daughters alike are going to be back in their proper place. I'm just grateful that I've been able to do that, not only for the 3 children that were here before him that did have certificates produced off of their gift, i.e. their appellation, but with the 4th one, I was looking for a midwife, one of the elders in the community. I was unable to get up with her. But nonetheless, yes, we need to utilize our midwives. We need to start studying, be midwives and doulas. I have a sister and a young lady who's studied to be a doula, and she's actually did 2 already. And it was kind of sad because they were 2 Europeans that she had assisted with, and the 3rd one that she was supposed to assist with was, a Moor. She doesn't know she's a Moor. But she gave her to run around and everything. She wound up having a baby without even acknowledging, having her come out to the hospital. So, we got a lot of work to do when it comes to mothers. I appreciate the sons out here doing the work that they do. You look at our one-on-one, son is holding us up, until we can come to safely. And I can appreciate that. But I appreciate the fact being able to do for my children, and the fact that my mom, she came to and realized what was necessary in herself, have proclaimed, or she declared, and then about a year later she proclaimed her nationality. And that's that right there, in our community, moms don't like to be told she was wrong about something, and the fact that my mom, she heard and she was like, and in time, she's like, yeah. And we've been making the strides to make the changes to, handle our affairs in these contracts. But, yeah, Mom, that's the one. And when I'm out here talking to my young sisters or what have you, and some my age and some may be elders, but generally the young sisters, especially when I see a pregnant young lady, I have to start the conversation. First thing I always ask, you going to nurse your baby? Because I find that very important because it's a part of the child's birthright. Automatic. There's no questions about that. That's birthright right there. And I figure with that kind of conversation, letting her know that, birthright is important, and that opens the door for a conversation about nationality and the importance of it. Usually, we're in a public-type setting, so I can ask a few Europeans as passerbys, I've asked you a question, what's your nationality? And they can spit it out quickly without, thought or contradiction, whereas you ask any one of us sleepy Moors, they'll tell you one of 3 things: Black, African-American, Christian, all those things that has nothing to do with your nationality, and all those things to keep you, basically in bondage in your own land. So, again, I appreciate it, and you're right, it comes down to mother. Once mother gets this, it's a wrap for these corporations. I mean, yeah, you're going to be able to still, do business here only if you're willing to do business under the contract that was laid before you, which is the Constitution. Like the prophet told you, uphold that Constitution, because when you do that, then you'll see how, you can operate or navigate, versus those who choose not to even acknowledge their, nationality, and acknowledge their birthrights, and they're still trying to appease these statutes, these codes, these ordinances, and they're still getting, they're not getting nowhere. They still got to look over their shoulders for being pulled over because of profiling and stuff of that nature, So, yeah, I think the best way is to continue on with these programs and having these discussions within our homes. That's another thing that we lack. We don't have these discussions in our homes. We talk about everything under the blue moon that the corporate media has told us to talk about. But when it comes down to the real affairs of what's going on amongst the nations, the family and nations of the world, we don't have these conversations.
Well, we don't.
Enough.
And you said it. You said so that the jurisdiction will be under the mother and not under the corporation. Now, just saying it that simple should be enough to wake every mother up to recognize that the jurisdiction and the authority that's being compelled upon them and their child is under a corporation, not a government, a corporation. And that enough should be enough for the mother to take her place amongst the affairs of man and make herself back to the family of nations, not corporations. And that's exactly what the prophet said. He said, come hear the truth about your nationality and your what? Birthright.
Your birthright.
Which means that in case you didn't get it, that means we're calling this is women, birthrights. But everybody has birthrights being birthed from the mother. It says, come hear the truth about your nationality and your birthright. You're not Negro, colored, and black. That's what I call the first degree. So you get past that. Come link yourself back to the family of nations, not corporations, nations, not states, nations, and take your place amongst the affairs of man. Period. That's the call out. That's it. It's just that simple. It's not even complicated in the sentence that was just said. That's it, and that's all. So if you recognize, then why would you have authority? Yeah, right. So, and that's another thing when you also mention corporations, and I meant to mention this earlier. We got a lot of people, and Anna mentioned something about these things, these statutes and ordinances are dealing with commerce and commerce only. And this is why we're telling our people, stop going out there wanting to delve into commerce because, this is about your nationality. I mean, you can do merchanting. We're the original merchants, but, they mix in commerce. Yeah, I got my commerce, my UCP, and all this, whatever they have to, the commercial thing, and deal with first thing first, your status, who you are as a national and a natural flesh and blood being, then deal with whatever else. Join whatever else you wish to, but be who you are when you enter and be who you are when you enter.
Be who you say you are. I say it to myself every day I go outside the house because I got some stalkers right now, imitating police officers or whatever, but I always tell myself when I leave the house, be who I say I am. So if I have to encounter them, I already know what I have to do. I already got my, writ of discovery on file. So all I got to do is put in names and send that out right away kind of thing. And I just appreciate having the knowledge in all reality, being a mother, bringing children into this world how it, or at least into our society where it's so screwed up. And to have a daughter and mixed of all these boys, it was imperative that I learned this. And I'm so grateful to know this as mother, because without mother knowing this, then you can't expect your sons, your daughters to have any clue about what's going on, and you continually to perpetuate the abuses that are handed down because you're claiming to have no land, no nation, no people, no nothing. So you are open to be abused by any other citizen. It's just that simple, because you have nobody that's going to come to your defense, because you have no nation, you have no land, you have no people, you have no constitution, you have nothing.
But you're not claiming it.
You have it, but you're not claiming it.
But you're not claiming it. You're not declaring it, and you're not proclaiming it, and you're not being it. Because remember, Prophet Noah Jurali also said, "I come to teach you to be yourself." You know what I'm saying? And so
be who you say you are.
It's more being, and that's what Godding is really. Where God comes from, it's a being, it's a doing and a acting and a being, not an actual person, place, or thing. It's a doing.
Be who you say you are.
Doing good and Godding. That's really what it is.
But when you talk to people, they look at you crazy when you say this is Africa, but you call it a Nexum.
because they haven't been taught. They've been indoctrinated by these same corporate structures who have their own intent, and we read the intent right out of the bibliophilia text as well, to make human trafficking out of you and to devour the child as the dragon waits by the mother to devour the child. I mean, they just effectuated that into a process. That's it. You know what I mean?
That's why I like Fonteas's testimony about how he handled everything, and you all dealt with, Revelation, speaking of this very same thing. The dragon is waiting to devour the child, and when you put it together and you see yourself in that hospital, that's exactly what they're doing. They're hovering to take that child because you never know which one is going to come through. It's going to help.
They're going to more now because of the consciousness. Like I said, they were laid back before because it was easy coming. Now it isn't. And so now they have to be just more of who they are. That's it now. No, they're just being showing more of who they are. And we have to show more of who we are, first knowing who we are. It's the same, same thing that's meeting each other. So, so it's, and like I said, too, people wanting to, you're talking about nations, people wanting to start a new thing. We read somewhere, I don't know, and if you read about it, where some brother is talking about we really needed to mention this, and the United States of America, the new established United States of America, and he's the president. Well, check this out. The United States of America, meaning of the American land, is not and never was established for Moors. So for anybody to say, oh, this is the new United States of America, there's error right there. There's an absolute error, and just asinine, non-studied, but they're all over the web or whoever they got listening to that crap, thinking that they are going to start something new when there's nothing new on this sun. It is what it is, and so and again, starting nations can only be done with the mother because she comes here with the nation in her womb. So So this is the kind of stuff we have to be aware of. So all we can do is do the best we can, and starting with this is about nationality and birthrights, and both of them come from your mother, then we got to start with the sisters. And they are lost. These young girls are lost because those corporations are really using them to do surveys and to counteract the new generation breed of mental, emotional, and their basic overall existence, carrying with them the damage, as Annie said, that was done to them by them being ripped from their own mother when they were young under these programs, and a lot of them going into foster homes or whatever like that, and still having that natural desire, you know what I mean, to be right. So they're kind of lost in that, and so we have to, so the elder mothers who are listening and who already have children and may not be having any more at this time cycle in their life, this lifetime, need to just get on with this to assist the younger daughters to come up to the plate, and protect the family.
And that's
what they can
where
do.
I feel like we may have dropped the ball in the past, us, not doing the work and not letting our daughters know what's really going on, what's concerning them, and that whole diaspora of things. Like my son, 19, he has a young lady that he claims to be very, very interested in, so-called engaged or whatever. But like I explained to him, in her presence, if she is not a national, then I can find it, of no benefit for her to reproduce a child that she's going to sign over to the state, and not to mention the fact that you're going to go into a contract with the state thinking that you married someone, when in reality, when you heard that minister or pastor or whomever they would go in front of say, by the power vested in me by such and such a state, that right there is the key to let you know that you are not in no spiritual holy union with the, Most High or anything. You just enter into a contract with the state, who is the principal, of that contract, where they get everything and y'all just work for them.
But now look at the other dichotomy that you just laid on the table. So you have a child, son, and you would be a grandmother to to the child that his that the mate that he had. However, here's where the division continues, because if that daughter that he's getting ready to side her child, if she's not conscious, she's going to take the grandchild, and whatever her status is what that child's status is. But now here's more further division in the family. You see? So yeah. So women have to start teaching their children, both their sons and their daughters. You know what I mean? So that they
I appreciate the fact that he's clear on who he is, what he is, you know, and the work that needs to be done. The young lady coming up with a heavy Christian hand over her, you know, she finds it a bit offensive, certain things that has been said or played for her and what have you. But as I explained to her, you have to take into account that all the information that you have been given up until this point of meeting me has been misinformation to continue to rob you of your inheritance, your birthright, your, you know what I'm saying, your estate. And I'm not here to do any of these things. I'm only here to share the information that I have gathered and found to be of benefit, not only to myself, but also to my offspring. And because you are, you know, desiring to be a partner to one of my children, you know, it is imperative that you at least be privy to the information so you can at least make a clear decision on which way you wish to go.
It applies to her as well. But that's what I'm
saying. I'm referring this to her, not him. Yeah, he's clear. But the young lady, she's just...
This is where the division, another place where the division comes. But now you got to look at the son, too, because this is the same thing, and Anita said this many times, where the son will have a child, think it's his child, it's her child, in terms of law, and allegiance to political allegiance and civil statuses, okay? That's her. She determines that. She determines that. Sorry, son. She determines. So now, if it's just as much as them being with, say, maybe someone of the amalgamated European family. So now what? You know, like.
Well, he already told me. He said until she does this, until she declare, i.e., to herself, know that she's a Moor, and also proclaim, not only will the so-called marriage be postponed, but also any type of trying to conceive a child with her, she's got to get her, as he say, she's got to get her mind up.
Well, that's great. That's wonderful. But actually, and in reality, what is being asked of her is to have an exorcism and a baptism. And so, like that, she can only,
give me that.
She can only have that in her time. You know, if he understands that, that's fine. But that's what is being asked of her, to have it, to have an exorcism and a baptism.
Madness.
You know, whatever.
My 18-month-old getting ready to get started. So,
all right.
I appreciate the classes.
Good to hear from you, Sid. We're hoping we get to see you soon. But we'll talk about that later. And thanks for calling.
All right. Oh, right. Indeed. Peace.
Peace.
All right, thanks for that wonderful call. And let's see, we have one more caller. Caller 908-922. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwestern Medicine.
Peace and love. This is Eric Heru Moor RVBey from Northwest Amexham. How's y'all doing this evening?
We're fine, brother. We're fine. How are you?
I'm good. Sister Roz, we spoke a while ago. I'm the brother who actually lost his wallet like a month and a half ago.
What's your appellation again? Your appellation again? Yeah. What's your appellation again?
Eric Heru Moor.
Oh yeah. Yes. We have spoken, and we conferenced with you once too. She may recall, but yes, I know who you are. Peace and love.
I'm glad you guys actually spoke on this subject today, because it's very personal for myself, because I'm currently employed by DCF and been employed for 15 years. So, So what you guys were talking about was right and exact. I see it every day. The sadness of it all is our people, they don't have any knowledge whatsoever. They're forced to sign stuff away because, an agent will say, oh, this is in your best interest, and blah, 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 yada, 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 and they have this puzzled look on their face. And when it comes to their children, some people are willing to do anything with a lack of knowledge, that is. If they had knowledge, I definitely can say by 100% they wouldn't be doing what they were doing, but they promote all this stuff to them by saying, oh, just sign this, everything will be fine, yada, 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 and before they know it. And here's the thing. Some of the caseworkers are actually on their side to what limited knowledge that they do have. However, once they sign whatever they sign or DCF interferes in their life, it's a done deal because they're bombarded with litigation agents, administrators claiming to be judges. They're threatened, all types of stuff. Well, if you don't do this, you won't get your kids back, so on and so forth. And before you know it, they're in a system where it's going to take them a serious long time to get out of it because they don't study, and people are giving them bad advice, totally wrong advice, because what happens is they always have someone who says that they're trying to help, but on the same token, they're working for the division, and they're kind of like countermining what they're trying to do. It's pathetic.
It is.
But I think,
it is.
it's sickening, actually. I think you guys did a wonderful job today touching on and expounding on everything about DCF. I was dying to call in. So I was like, because it's like I said, it hits home. Like every day I go to work and I see this every day. And people at my job, they won't say too much to me because I try to make people think every once in a while. I'm not trying to preach to nobody, but like the prophet said, if I can get you to think, you free yourself. So I would ask them questions. Well, why do you think you guys think we have the authority to go in people's houses and take their kids? What gives them that? And then most people are like, oh, well, it's the judge and this is government and blah, 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 blah. And I just sit back and I'll laugh a little bit, I'll chuckle, and I'll drop a little jewel every now and then and make them think. And you see their eyes rolling in the back of their head. They're puzzled, like, they know something's not right. They just can't put their finger on it. And when you really break it down, when you look at the hierarchy of the system at whole, it's full of Europeans. That's all it is. That's running the show. It's full of Europeans.
Wow.
From top to bottom, it's all Europeans, especially in the top. There's some other matters that we could talk about personally in regards to that situation. But I'll call you or email you or what have you. But
we would love to talk to you, soon, if not sooner, about these things. Yeah. When you call me, we'll go on a conference meeting and eat with you. Yeah.
I definitely can get you whatever you need, documentations or what have you on the info. Like I said, I've been there for 15 years, and I've seen a lot of stuff, good and bad, mostly bad, though. It's just, I don't know, what I see mostly is that, and let me see how I can put this. What I see mostly is that out of, let's say 12 employees, maybe 6, which are melanated, definitely understand that something's not right. But where they get it from is just the standpoint of the colorable side of, well, they do all this for Europeans and the Latinos, but the blacks is not getting it done this way. Then you have some that are acknowledge it because they have to go to court, where the administrator is chewing them out, telling them they did this wrong or they didn't do this right or you need to do this. Then they leave and they ask themselves a question like, how does that actually make sense in terms of what we need to do for the parent and the child in terms of getting the child back with the parent? Because the number one goal, at least what they preach to us is reunification. That's what they say. That's the number one goal, getting reunification, getting the parent and the child back together. However, the administrators, they don't really practice that same thing because the workers will put their leg out, they put their arm out, and try everything in their power to get the kid back with the parent, but the administrator will do something different and be like, nah, we need to do this or run this parent through more services that, of course, they got to pay for. Last but not least, I'm not going to hold you guys up. One thing that I did notice, you guys were talking about child support. Now, when a child is taken away from the parent is forced to pay child support to the division.
Wow.
While the child is still in foster care.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I'll definitely give you a call or email you.
That's double dipping.
Most likely I'll give you a call And we
that's
can talk further about
we
this.
can talk. I understand why you want to, give us a call on that later, but and he just said that's double dipping. So basically, like you said, it's all really about. I mean, you didn't say that, but it's all really about them making finance off of them. It is really about that. Let's get real about it, because I have heard about this unification, but I have also talked to sisters who, and to of course you know what you're talking about. You're there. They were saying that, well, yeah, I'm supposed to have my child and I have this meeting, and then the next thing happens. Oh no, we have to have another meeting. Oh no, we have to have come to your house. Oh no, and that's another thing they do. We change your caseworker, so now you got to go through it all over again.
Yep.
They do all that they can to keep the child in the possession because they're making finance off of that.
Yes,
and why should why should anybody have to pay them child support when they shouldn't be having a child? This is again what authority do they really have?
Most of the foster parents that I come across with are European. Some of them are very nice. I got love for everybody. You know how we are. But when you really sit back and break it down, it's all financial. I asked one of the caseworkers, I say, let me ask you a question. How do you think we actually get paid to do what we do? And they couldn't answer it. I'm like, well, it's all about human resources, and that's how we make a profit. You know what I mean? I said, the kids are transferred back and forth, and they make a profit off of that. Especially when it comes to, the amount of money some of these foster parents are getting is crazy, for one. And the amount of stuff that they don't want to do when they're getting this money is also crazy. They make a lot of money. And God forbid if the kid has special needs or something like that, they get a lot more money too.
Wow.
It's crazy.
So then, and based on what we know, this is human trafficking at its best,
Absolutely.
wouldn't it?
At its finest. Oh, and to make something, this is so funny. I think it was 6 or 7 months ago, you guys had a broadcast on human trafficking itself, right? I was listening to it. It was great. About a week and a half after that, I heard that our job had a training, and that's right, it was in February because they do it every February. They had a training at our job for human trafficking, and they put this whole spiel together, and they hired some corporation to run up pamphlets and documentation about makeshift videos that when I saw the video, they actually looked very tailored, cut, because I was asking a lot of questions, and the instructor kind of didn't like me because I was asking too many questions, and she pulled me to the side after it was all over and was like, look, I'm just trying to do what they taught me to do. The questions that you have, I really can't answer it. And I was like, oh, okay, I was just kind of being very inquisitive, although I knew what was going on. So when they showed us all these videos and oh, what do you think happens? And, kids get taken up and they take up prostitution. And this is called human trafficking because they prostitute people for football games in the Super Bowl, and the cops are aware. All this BS that, to me, just was flipped upside down. It's another way for them to make profit off of something that they've been doing for a longer time. But to their, what I want to say, their citizens, people under their franchisees who have no knowledge whatsoever, they think it's legal or lawful, rather. Not knowing that they just flipped it upside down and they're giving you back what they've been doing. But now they're trying to say, look, we're trying to help, stop human trafficking. But I felt that majority of the people, if not 99% of the people who had the seminar instructing, did not truly understand the true definition of human trafficking as much as I did. So I'm sitting back there shaking my head yo, this is all BS. But I'm at the job, so I got to front oh yeah, okay, sure. But I'm like, this is all BS. Yeah, it was very interesting how they're trying to flip everything.
Right. So we need to talk about some of it. You're saying that most all of this is from the lack of knowledge of the people knowing how to handle their affairs, and they coerce them into agreeing to different things, especially young sisters, telling them that it's best for their family. But in reality, if they had knowledge, they wouldn't have to be a part of that.
That's the truth, and that's that trickles over to the workers as well, the agents. Their agent, and it's a, like you just stated, it all boils down to indoctrination and not education. Most of the people who are agents of the division have master's degrees in criminal justice or something like that. So they believe in the system. They are educated fools, as we call them, because they went through the higher learning of class and they think they know something, not understanding they have no knowledge of the definitions or the words that they're using. So now you put them into this program, corporation, what they consider government. That's one strike against them because they don't know. And they're trying, what they preach to you is, we're helping the community. We're trying to help people. We're trying to keep people safe. We're trying to keep the kids safe. So, majority of the field is women, is mothers. So they have that mentality in their head that this is what they're doing. It's like the blind leading the blind, and the blind that's following doesn't know a clue, but they're going off of pure faith, and they're passionate in their love of, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to do a better job. But their lack of information is also hurting the people that they're trying to put in the system or help with this system that's actually destroying them. So it's a double-edged sword. It's like the person that they're coming to has no knowledge whatsoever, and the person that's approaching them have no knowledge whatsoever. Because I see on a daily basis my own people who work there struggle with what they're doing. Struggle. It's to a point where, like, people like, I really want to quit because I hate this job because we're not helping nobody. Back in the day, in let's say 2000, 2001, 2003, every pay period, 7 people would quit. That's how high the turnover was. I remember going into a training with 7 people, and 3 of us came back, and the other 4 came back, grabbed their stuff, and said, this is not for me, I'm leaving.
Okay. Wow, we need to talk. But I know we have we already kind of know, and you're just affirming that we know.
Yeah.
The people who don't know, and they need to know. So we're on the right path.
They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know, and they have people who may look like them, talk like them, trying to give them information, but the people who are giving them the information are clueless. Now, I have some good brothers and sisters that work with me. They're good in heart, but they're clueless in knowledge. So therefore, they have nothing to fall back on and nothing to go forward. And they also live in fear because I can't stress it no more. When I'm at that job, I keep telling them, look, y'all do understand we don't work for a corporate. We don't work for government, right? They're like, what are you talking about? Yes, we do. I'm like, I'm just like, oh, my God. You know
Who's their check signed by?
The check is signed by the state of New Jersey. Period.
I doubt that very much. It's got to be, because I'm sure, the state of New Jersey, all their checks are signed by the comptroller.
Oh, who exactly is the check signed by?
Yes.
Precisely, you mean?
Yes. See, because I can send a draft to any check printing company and say, print me up a bunch of checks that say the state of New Jersey, and then underneath because they're flying under the state of New Jersey banner because they're a corporation and they can. And they were hired by the state to administer a program, and they are. But the people don't know what that program is.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. They don't have a clue.
But why would they be hired by the state to administer that program if it's unlawful?
Because the program, more than likely, was never intended to be administered against the people, just like the motor vehicle program. But the state doesn't have the personnel to administer that program and the other things that they administer as well. So they contracted out.
Okay.
And so these contractors, they go around and they say, well, I work for the government. No, you don't. And because they're contracted by the state, they can include their business on the state website that says .gov, but they are not .gov.
That is definitely correct. That is definitely correct. I believe it's the commissioner who signs the checks or what have you. But there's more information I would love to talk to you guys.
Yes. We will definitely be talking.
Yes, please.
Yeah. All right.
It's deeper than deep when I go to work. I done seen so much stuff, and I try to do my best to pull people aside and let them know, like, you do have rights, right? You don't have to sign anything. Don't listen to nobody. And for a person such as myself, they listen because they see I care about them, and I'm not just a suit. You know what I mean? I'm not just an agent, because I sit down and talk to them like, look, you don't feel comfortable in signing it, no one can force you. I always tell them that. No one can force you. Don't believe they'll threaten you. They're going to try to threaten you because that's what they do. And sometimes they're taught that. And this is the sad thing about it. Supervisors and casework supervisors will lean on the worker and tell them, tell them that, we're going to get the judge, and the judge is going to subpoena them to do this and yada, yada, yada. And I'm just like, really? Really?
Oh, that's what I meant to. You said they will threaten them, because I've talked to some sisters and they said, no, they threaten me. So you're saying that's what they do, threaten, and coercion.
Yeah, it's a bluff. They do. Yeah, it is. But the people fall for it so bad because it's kind of like they feel vulnerable, because like one half, they already removed their kid. They have their kids from them off of allegations that's probably unsubstantiated, but they don't care because, once they get you in the system, they're like, now we're going to put you through this roller coaster, and now we're going to make some type of profit off you. And, you're going to have to hustle and bustle to get out of that. Because a lot of times I told them, I said, look, this is how I explain to a lot of the parents, because the job that I do is very difficult because I'm always hated by my peoples. And I explained to them like this. I said, look, my job, I don't want to come to your house and remove your kid. I don't even want to see you. I'm not saying that you're a bad parent. I never said that. I said, but unfortunately, the job that I do have is like the fire department. When they go into a school and they know it's a false alarm and the kid pulls the alarm and they know it's no fire, they still have to go, because somebody has to. What if it is a fire and they think it's a false alarm, something happens? So this is all I'm doing. I said, so please direct your anger elsewhere, because I'm not the enemy. I'm not here judging you. I'm not here looking at you. But what I will do is tell you, you don't have to sign this and you don't have to do that. If anyone tells you, you don't have to do it. If you do it, that's on your own accord. But know what you're doing before you proceed. I always say that to everybody. They'll look at me and they go, okay.
And that's where we fail at. That's the failure. They don't know.
Yep. And another thing I tell them, document everything.
Yes.
Document everything. And I also tell them, if you don't like your worker, call and complain and get them removed. Write a letter to so-and-so, because you know how things work. When you start sending letters to the right people, they're going to make some changes.
Exactly.
Thank you for saying that. I have been saying that for years and years. Say it again, please.
Yeah, when you send a letter to the right people, they will make some changes. I done seen it happen more than one. On numerous occasions, I done seen the biggest of people get removed or slid somewhere else because a certain letter got to a certain person and they said, oh no. And another thing that I address to them, I say, listen, there's a reason that DCF, which is now considered Division of Children and Protection and Permanency, they changed their names multiple times. I know I'm preaching to the choir because I know you ladies understand this, is that whenever they get sued, and they have been sued, especially when it was DYCF, DCF, they had their Sister Annie always talks about this, the indignant insurance goes up. So they can't continue to do business.
Thank you.
They can't continue to do business in the same name. So this is what they do. Because every certain amount of years, we always get a new book. It's a new policy, and they change the name again. But it's business as usual, and they'll change the head. So it happened 3 times since I've been there. And before I've been there, it happened probably more than that. But every time they get sued, and the lawsuits is astronomical, but they keep them out of the paper. The lawsuits are astronomical. So every time they get sued, too much lawsuits is, it's bad business. It's sort of like anything that hits the press. They don't want that hitting the press because it's bad business.
Right, because of what they're doing. See, so I'm glad you're sharing this, brother. I'm glad you're sharing this. Are we glad you're sharing this? And because he just proved what we've been saying to people. But the people have to get up on their being on it,
Right.
Wow. And they still do what they do until we really shut them all down. And that means tomorrow, activate today immediately upon them probing into your life.
Yeah. I got some stuff to talk to you about what I'm dealing with them later on. I'll probably call you tomorrow. I'll make sure I call you tomorrow, or I'll leave a message in the machine, or I'll email you. Most likely I'll call you.
I jotted down your number, but what I would like to do is I would like to officially end the broadcast, because if we go a little bit longer, we're going to get cut off. But thank you so much for that information. Thank you so much for that confirmation of what I've been saying for years. And we will absolutely be talking to you. Yes.
You're welcome, and thank you, Islam.
And to our and to our listeners, we got like 3 minutes, not even left. But we will be back here for our next installation broadcast of Sisters Standing on Law, June 19th, same time. We'll see you Tuesday for Principles of Nationality at 9:30. We've got a busy week. We got Principles of Nationality Tuesday at 9:30. We got Moor's Heritage and History School Wednesday at 7:30, and we have Sons of Allah. This Thursday at 9 p.m. with Mizraim Aleph Il and Cujo Azwa Il. So we got a lot of information in store for you this week, 3 broadcasts, and we kicked it off with Sister Standing on Law today. So,
listen, I just want to say I am so glad that we did this, and I am so glad that the brother came on and let it be known what we've been saying and said it clearly. This is not government. We're trying to tell people that, therefore, they have no authority over you and your family other than what you keep giving them. And although they get it from you under threat, duress, and coercion, once you have identified this, you know what to do. Islam.
Yes, Islam. And thank you all for listening, joining, and sending your energy and participating. And we shall see you on Tuesday, 9:30, same bat channel. Peace and love.
All right.